Everybody, I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the content on the channel, of course. Follow us on social media, of course, the links in the description. The usernames are on the screen. And, of course, listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. Join us for more. We're on the way, of course, on the channel to always go more than 1k subscribers. Of course, we're reaching that milestone in the last season. Thank you for that, and help us reach more over the course of this season. Join us. To kick things off in this episode, and of course talk about what happened on Sunday, we go to Spain, and I'm starting talking about Barcelona. They beat Getafe 2-1 in Laliga. Of course, Osasuna also defeated Cadiz 3-2 away from home. Rayo Vallecano managed to beat Granada 4-0, and Atletico Madrid drawn against Villareal. We'll get to them in a moment, but let's start with Barcelona. They defeated Getafe 2-1 at the Camp Nou, their first game, or their second game in the Camp Nou this season. It wasn't great. It wasn't the perfect game, obviously. Still, they had a couple of minutes and periods in the game where they looked pretty vulnerable. The start was explosive, a goal in the second minute from Sergio Roberto, who went down injured, of course, in this game, and it looks like something serious. Maybe he'll be out for a while, which is not a good sign, really, when Barcelona are already having Aguero on the shelf, and they know they're short of options and short of solutions on the bench, if we want to talk about it. Clément Lenglet and Ronald Araujo made the back two after Piqué, of course, was injured, and Eero Garcia was sent off against Bilbao. Emerson Royal on the right coming in for Dest, but he was replaced by Dest during the game, and then the usual lineup in the first couple of games this season. Griezmann, Depay, and Braithwaite seems to be the forward line for Barcelona this season, albeit Braithwaite also has been injured and went down injured and was replaced in the game by Nicolas Gonzalez. It seems like it's not going to be a good season, Barcelona. I mean, the early signs, not a good season because of the results, but not a good season because the injuries could do to them what did to Liverpool last season, which is hinder their momentum. I mean, if Barcelona had any momentum after Messi leaving the club, certainly the injuries will continue to it. Back to the game itself. Again, Barcelona were not that great. Getafe had opportunities. The goal itself is like a testament to how bad Barcelona's defense could be, and obviously looking on the horizon for Barcelona, there's Bayern Munich coming to Camp Nou in the Champions League. That is not going to be a pleasant experience if they continue like that. I mean, Clément Lenglet does look all sorts of dishevelled and lost in that game. The fact that Memphis Depay comes to the rescue again, just like he did against Bilbao, and the Barcelona fans or the Spanish media or the Barcelona related media will try to market this as a great victory and as a dominant display. I don't think it was. It wasn't quite that dominant. Like, it wasn't peak Barcelona dominant. And Getafe had opportunities in the first half. They had opportunities in the second half. The goal, as I mentioned, was a pretty shambolic defending. It started with losing the ball in a pretty high place in the midfield, and then Getafe just doing a tiki-taka basically through the defense of Barcelona and really moving their way quickly through that Barcelona defense to score the goal, which Ter Stegen takes a bit of responsibility for being a little bit late in his diving towards the ball, and he does that all the time. And Ter Stegen, it's not something that he did after the injury. I mean, it's always in his character that he dives just a second later than the ball, really, to rely on his expectations, rely on his predictions to the ball and where it's going to go on which corner. So a good victory for Barcelona. I'm not going to lie. Of course, it's a good victory. Of course, it is an important victory. 7 points out of 3 games, keeps them in the top. Gives them an important momentum, I think, ahead of the international break, ahead of the break that they're going to have. The return of the Champions League is going to be after that break, so it's going to be quite a big deal for Barcelona to go to that break with a victory, to prepare themselves really well, to send the players to their national teams in a happy spirit, in a happy mood, and all of that, and to have them in a really good, in a really good spirit. As I mentioned, of course, Osasuna defeated Cadiz 3-2. It was a crazy game. Talk about crazy games. That was an incredible game, by the way. 3 penalties in this game were awarded. Osasuna had the first one for Kiki Garcia as equaliser after Alex Fernandez scored the first for Cadiz. Then, of course, it was Alex Fernandez back again for Cadiz for the second goal. Then Roberto Torres managed to make it 2-2 from a penalty spot, and David Garcia stole the winner in the 95th minute for Osasuna for the 3-2 victory. Osasuna, of course, find themselves 5 points in 8, while Cadiz only 2 points from 3 games. It doesn't look like it's going to be a decent season as last season was for Cadiz, who were really, really good at the start of the season and picked up some incredible results. Rayo Vallecano managed to smash Granada 4-0. No real surprises about that. The goals coming in from Alvaro Garcia, Oscar Trejo, and then Randy Nteca made it 3-0 in the first half, and then Santi Comesana added the 4th goal in the second half. Atletico Madrid versus Villareal was a crazy game on its own, also for sort of other reasons. Atletico Madrid dominated the game. That is something I didn't think I would say or I would see. But Atletico Madrid dominated the game. They had more possession, they had more shots, they had more attempts. But the ending, I think, for this game was pretty crazy. Villareal took the lead twice in this game, and they lost it against Atletico Madrid. It is weird. It's weird. Atletico Madrid dominated the game, and Villareal took the lead twice. They missed a lot of chances. Thomas Lemar hit the post. Kieran Trippier missed a chance, Luis Suarez missed a chance, Carrasco missed a couple in the first half. In the second half, of course, Atletico Madrid, I think, paid the price for missing those chances. Trigueros scored a beautiful goal to open the scoring in the 52nd minute, smashing it with the inside of the foot past Jan Oblak. Luis Suarez equalised quickly after 4 minutes, taking advantage of a melee in the Villareal defence. Then Arnaud Danjuma managed to make it 2-1 in the 74th minute, and after that started the panic mode, I would say, for Villareal or for Atletico Madrid to go through and to score. And as Atletico Madrid were looking to score in the 95th minute, as all the solutions were drained pretty much for Atletico Madrid, it came from the weirdest way possible. Aizamendi is an own goal you want to see. It's just so weird and so out of the ordinary that you just want to see it and laugh. So Koke goes to cross the ball towards Luis Suarez, I think, or who it was inside the box. Aizamendi, it's a pretty casual header back to the goalkeeper, but the goalkeeper, Johnny Maruli, was out of the right angle, wasn't exactly waiting in the right angle, and the ball basically crept into the net. And it was 2-2. Listen, I'm not giving it justice by describing it. You should go and watch it. It's just too funny of an own goal to be ignored. Really, it's just that amazing. And the craziest thing about this is the fact that Simeone celebrated like his team got the goal in a 40 passes action. It's a weird feeling. But again, at least the point is up. Once I say it for Atletico Madrid, at least they still in the 7 points club over the course of the season. Of course, with Real Madrid, Sevilla, Valencia, Barcelona, and Mallorca behind them, they're still in that 7 points club at the top of the table before the break. As for Villareal, 3 points with only 1 victory in the season. Not a decent start for Unai Emery for Europa League winners, but definitely the kind of start that should be forgotten really for Villareal. It should be turning a new page after the international break. Of course, the full standings for La Liga, of course, at the moment, as I mentioned, Real Madrid, Sevilla, Valencia, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Mallorca, in this order, all have 7 points. They also still are the only team who had 6. Osasuna and Athletic Bilbao with 5 points. Vallecano and Villareal with 3 points. Cadiz, Levante, Betis, Elche, Espanyol, and Granada all with 2 points. 1 point for Celta, Getafe, and Deportivo Alaves, 0 points at the very bottom of the table. From La Liga, we move on to Italy, to Serie A. Of course, 4 matches took place yesterday, and after, of course, Lazio, Inter showed themselves, Juventus lost, of course. It came the round to Milan and Roma, who were pretty up to the task, really, yesterday, and scored some incredible victories. Before that, of course, in the Bundesliga, quickly, Union Berlin defeated Borussia Mönchengladbach 2-1. Wolfsburg managed to defeat Leipzig 1-0. We'll get to the standings of the Bundesliga later on when we finish the episode. Napoli get the hard win against Genoa 2-1. It wasn't the best of performances, but when you get the win, that's what matters really. It was hard. I mean, it will always be hard when you go to Genoa. Fabian Ruiz made it 1-0 in the first half, and then of course Andrea Cambiaso made it 1-1 in the 69th minute, and Andrea Petagna managed to score the 84th minute winner for Napoli in this game. I mean, Andrea Petagna, I just want to stop for a second with Andrea Petagna. The guy is 26, by the way. Like, he doesn't sound... He sounds really old when you mention that he played in AC Milan back in 2012 or whatever. But the guy is that young. Is still that young. He still has 7, 8, 9, 10 years maybe to give in his career. And he just seems too old, maybe because of his sort of physical shape. Not exactly the most athletic of player you would ever see, but certainly the kind of guy that works hard enough. He had a great season at Spal, by the standards of Spal, who went down, of course. And definitely someone who deserves attention. And maybe Milan should buy him in the future. I mean, if he improves himself physical-wise and gets in a better shape, why not? Maybe he would be a perfect replacement and returns to AC Milan for a stint where he can prove himself really well. For Napoli overall, under the tutelage of Luciano Spalletti, it's a good start. They're pragmatic. They're a side as pragmatic as their coach is. They want to do what they want to do. They want to achieve certain ways certain win with certain ways. They don't want to be overly exciting without, they want to be overly exciting, but without the sort of letting down the defensive guard or letting down the defensive side of things. So they just want to be pragmatic and effective in the same time. Second victory for Napoli, which is again a good start for the season. You can't get any better than starting with 2 wins in a row. Also, kind of the kind of a convincing win considering the trip to Genoa was pretty hard in the first place. Sassuolo drawn against Sampdoria 0-0. Not exactly the greatest of games. Nothing really to see here. Nothing really to register. Both share the points, and Sassuolo get their 4th point of the season, or Sampdoria get their 1st. Of course, after losing to AC Milan in the last game. Speaking of AC Milan, they done their laundry pretty quickly in the first half in that game against Cagliari. 4-1 it ended at the San Siro. The early goal from Sandro Tonali from a beautiful free kick. It's just so beautiful. It just smashes it Neymar style in 2017 into the top corner for the against Boris Radunovic, the Cagliari goalkeeper. It was amazing, just amazing goal. The quick equalizer came in from Cagliari just straight after. Of course, it was quickly replied to by Alessandro De Jola in the 15th minute from an assist of João Pedro, a player that I really like, quite underrated. João Pedro in Serie A. I mean, he was an Inter alumni at a certain point, and really didn't manage to make a big break in Serie A, but hopefully he proves himself really well this season. Also, he's one of those players that you think he's too old, but he's 29. I mean, he still has a couple of years, but definitely the kind of player that is quite underrated by Serie A standards. Rafael Leao made it 2-1 as well. Beautiful finish as well. And continuing the trend of beautiful finishes, Olivier Giroud made his bow, finally opening his account in the Serie A, and opening his account by a brace. The first goal was superb, by the way. It was a beautiful finish. It was Giroud being at his absolute best in terms of finishing. I mean, he might not score 40 goals a season. He might not be, to be honest, he might not be the smartest of strikers, but he can give you some slick finishing from time to time. The third goal in particular for Milan is an absolute testament to that. He scored a beauty with his left foot. He just takes it as it is, and the kind of pass that Brahim Diaz gave him, Brahim Diaz they gave him in that goal, was the kind of a bouncy ball that you try and hit with if you try to hit with your inside of the foot, probably will hit your ankle. And he got it so sweetly past Radunovic that you just want to see it again, and it going top corner. Beautiful first goal, and obviously more to come, and more to come in this game as he scored the 4th goal from a penalty. Originally it was a free kick, then the referee changed his view about it and decided it was a penalty. Olivier Giroud stepped up. Apparently, in the absence of Brahimovic, he will be the penalty taker. for AC Milan, which is a good deal for him to score more goals. Obviously, Milan looked really good, looked definitely better than the first game against Sampdoria, more comfortable against Cagliari, and certainly this should give them enough momentum of boost before the Champions League return. And the group they are in particular is pretty tough with Atletico Madrid and Liverpool and Porto. Roma, on the other hand, their mission was not as easy in Salernitana as they faced Salernitana. 4-0 it was, but do not read the title of the book only, because the first half was 0-0. Although domination from Roma, but they couldn't quite break through enough. Like, they didn't have that sting in the first half. In the second half, the net was open for them. Lorenzo Pellegrini managed to make it 1-0. Beautiful finish in the first goal from Lorenzo Pellegrini. Jordan Veretout made it 2-0 in the 52nd minute. Tammy Abraham finally opened his account in Serie A this season in his second start with Roma. Opens his account, scores his first goal, and proves Jose Mourinho right in trusting him in bringing him from Chelsea. The guy had a terrific game overall, by the way, not just scoring the goal, had a terrific game overall, assisting, not assisting, but putting chances and creating chances for Roma, positioning himself really well, getting opportunities, getting in the box really well, obviously bullying the defenders of Salernitana. Then Lorenzo Pellegrini managed to make it 4-0 for Roma, as if there was any doubt about the victor of this game. Roma as well, another side with a second win. I mean, I only feel bad for my Tunisian mate, Mojdi Kishrida, the right wing back. I really feel bad for him. I mean, poor him. He was put against Lorenzo Pellegrini and Mkhitaryan and Tammy Abraham coming down on his side. That is too much for him from the level he was in. And I watched him play in the Tunisian league and all of that. I really think that is just too much for him. And he still has the likes of Inter and Lazio and AC Milan to face. It's just ridiculous this season. But anyway, of course, Roma with another victory for themselves as well with 6 points, and they joined the 6 points club in Serie A with Lazio on top, Roma, Inter, Milan, Inter, and then AC Milan, and then Napoli all of 6 points, Udinese 4 points, Bologna 4 points, Sassuolo 4 points as well, Atalanta, Fiorentina 3 with Empoli, Juventus with 1 point, goodness me, what a bad start. Sampdoria 1 point, Cagliari 1 point, Spezia 1 point, Torino, Verona, Salernitana, Genoa, Venezia, in that order, all with 0 points in the Serie A. Finishing off and leaving the best to last, we go to the Premier League. 3 matches to finish the round 3 in the Premier League. Burnley drawn against Leeds United, 1-1, of course. Leeds United took the lead, or Burnley took the lead in this game thanks to Ashley Barnes. Thanks to Chris Wood in the 61st minute before Patrick Bamford equalised in the 86th minute. Leeds still without a victory this season in the third game of the season. They're still without any victories whatsoever. Burnley another point to their count. Of course, they could have gotten to 3. Really, it wasn't that it wasn't that hard of a game. Really, they could have gotten the point if they tightened themselves up a little bit against Leeds United, but definitely a point that will matter in the grand scheme of things for Leeds United. As I mentioned, is another negative performance for them. Not exactly the kind of performance that they want to have after a brilliant season last time out. Patrick Bamford scoring as usual is always a good thing. He gets his official international call in the next English squad for the qualifiers for the World Cup, which is again a good sign for him this season. Overall, not exactly a great start for Leeds United again compared to last season and compared to the highs they put themselves into and the standard they put themselves into, both as performance and as results. Tottenham continue to impress this season, or that's what I should say really, because their victory against Watford was as minimalistic as you'd expect it would be, although the performance wasn't. Obviously, Tottenham for once dominated a game. If they didn't dominate a game against Watford, who the hell they're going to dominate against? They did that. Son scored the only goal. They missed a couple of chances. Kane was there. We thought it was going to explode after deciding to stay at Tottenham, but definitely that was a decision that wasn't exactly caused by him liking to stay at the club. It was definitely caused by the club being so persistent, so stubborn about him going out and about Man City's offer. He started, as you'd expect him to start, and he looked good, but definitely Heung-min Son, I think, already transitioning into the main man for Tottenham this season. They know that by next season they can't keep Kane. They won't keep him potentially by next season. So definitely Heung-min Son is taking transition as the main man in Tottenham. He scored a beautiful free kick. I mean, I don't think he intended it to be that. Obviously, I think it was a cross. It wasn't met by anyone. It creeped straight into the net. It was like the goal from De Bruyne in the Champions League semi-final against Paris Saint-Germain, where the ball was a cross and then the goalkeeper didn't deal with it well, saw it late, and it crept into the far post. That's what's happened with the Heung-min Son goal. As I mentioned, they missed a couple of chances, and it was a 1-0 victory of the highest order, like a minimalistic victory, but with at least a pretty strong performance to boost as well. It's a good start for Tottenham. They're the only team in the Premier League to get the 3 points from all 3 games, which is crazy considering they started by facing City. We all expected them to lose that game, and they end up now with the strongest defense in the league so far. Yes, a weak attack, and 3 goals a goal in each game is not an average you want to have. But still, if you have that enough of a strength in the back, and you start by keeping 3 clean sheets, and your defense looking good, albeit because you decided to play too defensive, I think it definitely gives you signs going forward, and maybe, just maybe, Tottenham will be a dark horse for something this season. I don't know if for the Premier League title, but definitely for the top 4 places and the Champions League spots. The last game, of course, was Wolverhampton versus Manchester United at the Molineux. And this is not a good watch. This was not a good watch. The crowds are the only thing that makes this interesting. Goodness me, if this was without fans, like last season, I really can't. I just can't imagine this game being any good, or feeling any good about this game if it was not in front of fans, because it's a weird game. It's a weird game. It was pretty cagey, full of tactics, full of mathematics from both coaches. Particularly the first half an hour was like absolute ball fest. Wolverhampton had spells where they were the better side in the first half. In the second half, United started getting a little bit better. They realised that the result doesn't work in their favour really. They starting with Sancho. Starting with Sancho was a good decision, albeit in the end he was replaced by Martial. Varane had his first start with the club, and he looked good and gave an assist for Mason Greenwood. I mean, he gave him a normal pass and Greenwood just made an effort on his own, but still, he had a good game. He looked decent as a defender alongside Harry Maguire, and that might be your partnership in the centre-half positioning for Manchester United for the rest of the season. It looked decent, it gave its effect, they didn't concede goals. The goal itself for United was pretty controversial because there was like a tackle and challenge from Pogba on Ruben Neves right before it, so the referee was right by their side and he deemed it unworthy of looking at it. Controversy reigns supreme in the Premier League, by the way. It's definitely the kind of decision that a referee can make and a referee can't make, and it will spare controversy all over the Premier League social media and the Premier League clubs and all of that. And after the debacle that was the Liverpool-Chelsea game, the Wolverhampton United game provided another talking point about the refereeing in the Premier League. Overall, a good victory for United. Not the kind that they wanted, but obviously the 3 points is the only thing that matter. They get 7 points before the international break. They get the 3 points before the international break, a momentum booster. The players would go to the national teams happy, and they will return potentially with a big eye on the Champions League afterwards in September. The standings for the Premier League after the end of this fixture, of course, as I mentioned, Tottenham, the only team winning all of their 3 games, are on top with 9 points. Strong defence with 0 goals conceded. West Ham 7 points, Man United as well, Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton all with 7 points. City, Brighton, Leicester 6 points. Brentford with 5 points. Villa with 4 points, the only team with that. 3 points for Watford, 2 for Southampton, Crystal Palace and Leeds. 1 point for Burnley and Newcastle. Wolverhampton, Norwich and Arsenal are 7 points at the bottom 3 of the table. Before we go, of course, and finish the episode quickly, we go to the Bundesliga table quickly. On top of the table, Wolfsburg with 9 points, Leverkusen 7 points, as well as Bayern and Freiburg. 6 points for Dortmund, Köln and Mainz. 5 for Union Berlin, 4 for Hoffenheim, 3 for Leipzig, Bochum, Bielefeld, Stuttgart, 2 for Frankfurt, 1 for Borussia Mönchengladbach, 1 for Greuther Fürth, Augsburg 1 point as well in 17th, and Hertha Berlin at the bottom of the table with 0 points. Thanks for watching. That was the episode. Always avoid the HID of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications as well for all the updates and the videos. Follow us on social media. The links are in the description. And of course, the usernames on the screen. Listen to us on Spotify and all other podcast listening platforms. And until next time, I'll see you soon.